Hello and welcome to this very important tutorial. Because in this tutorial, I'm going to tell you which are the best sources you must have every time with you when you're taking this course. And there are actually three resources. The first one is this cheat sheet of the world model with all the different steps of the process, starting from the input frames, the very beginning, up to the selection of the action to play in the environment. And the other two resources for you to have all the time are these two websites, which are first the worldmodels.github.io, which is the original article, which is nothing else than the article made by the original authors of the world models, who are first David Ha from Google Brain in Tokyo, Japan, and Jürgen Schmidhuber from the Swiss AI company NNAI Sense, which was, I think, founded by the inventor of the LSTM. So, two big talents of the AI community, David Ha and Jürgen Schmidhuber, and I recommend to check them out on the internet. They also have fascinating articles and research papers written for AI research. But the reason why you should have this always with you, and which is the same reason why we should be so grateful for them, so thank you so much to both David Ha and Jürgen Schmidhuber, the reasons are that not only they created an insanely powerful model, which is the world model, but also they wrote a super clear, a crystal clear article on this model, which basically explains everything. Not only the intuition, in the first paragraph with this introduction, you will get the intuition of the world model with the fact that the reality we perceive is based on our brain's prediction of the future, and therefore we all have a different perception of the reality. So all the intuition is explained here, also with this baseball example. A baseball batter doesn't have time to see the ball coming to him and to see where he should hit the ball, but the reason why the batter manages to hit the ball is only because his brain predicts exactly where the ball is going to make contact. And so that's for the intuition, but of course then you'll have the full theory explained quite in great details, in my opinion, because it covers the different parts of the world model, including the VAE, variational autoencoder, as we can see here, VAE V model, with the different components of the variational autoencoder, including the encoder, which produces the latent vector Z, and then the decoder, which recreates the frame from the latent vector Z. And not only they explain this with nice graphics, but also they provide some sort of demo, interactive demo, where you have a random screenshot as the input and the options to randomize Z, and you get the reconstruction image. So, it's not all the time that we get all these well-explained informations for an AI model. Usually you only get the research paper, but the research paper is usually very advanced, addressed to the other AI experts in the community. But here, when I see this, really I have the feeling that it was addressed to everybody, which is our value here as instructors who want to spread the knowledge in the world and democratize artificial intelligence. So a big thank you for that. And then, of course, they cover the MDN RNN model, and they clearly explain that the role of the MDN, which is, I remind, the mixture density network that is here, the role of the MDN is just to model the probability distribution of the latent vector Z at time t+1 with respect to the action, the latent vector, and the hidden state at the current time. So, no worries if you don't understand what all this means. We will explain everything in the different steps of the course, but you'll see with our course plus this article, you won't be able to miss any detail. So that's why I have to insist, make sure to have it open with you when you take the course. This link, worldmodels.github.io. You just have to type world model on Google, and it will definitely be either the first or second link. All right, so MDN RNN, and then of course they explain the controller. And they clearly say that the controller is nothing else than a simple single layer linear model that maps zt, the latent vector, and ht, the hidden state, from the RNN directly to the action AT. So basically the action AT that is played at each time is just the result of this mapping from the controller, which is a simple single layer linear model, taking as input the concatenated input vector ZT-HT plus this bias. All right? And therefore, you have to understand that WC here is a matrix, a linear matrix with inside some weight. And the goal, the next step in the process is to leverage deep neuroevolution. Because what deep neuroevolution will do is it will find the best parameters of this weight matrix, meaning the best weights of the weight matrix so that the best actions are played and so that the reward is maximized. As they can see here, the goal, the ultimate goal in order to make the car drive as fast as possible is to maximize the expected cumulative reward of the agent during a rollout of the environment, meaning during a certain number of steps, like what I showed you in the previous tutorial, 900 steps. All right, so the optimizer that we'll use in the end in step 10 in the course structure will be exactly used to figure out the best weight of this weight matrix of the controller. And that's when the second link comes into play. Here is an article by the blog autoro.net, and they made an amazing guide on evolution strategies. So you absolutely need to read it fully. We will of course cover it in step 10, but you absolutely need to read this because again, the explanations are amazing. They're nice graphics. They illustrate everything with not only graphics, but as you can see, some diagrams, and they cover all the evolution strategies techniques from the simple evolution strategy, including also the simple genetic algorithm, then the covariance matrix adaptation evolution strategy, or CMAES, which is the one we'll use to optimize our full world model. And then also they cover the natural evolution strategies, and I think also the OpenAI evolution strategy, which is also a great one, and it will be provided in the master toolkit. All right, so you must read this as many times as you can. And so what you need to understand is that this will come into play to optimize the weight of the matrix of the controller. And this technique to optimize the weight of a model to, play the best actions that will lead to the highest rewards is called exactly policy gradient. It's a branch of artificial intelligence as opposed to the other competitive branch, which is deep reinforcement learning. Well, the difference between the two is that policy gradient will use some techniques like evolution strategies to figure out the best parameters of a model. So here, policy gradient will figure out the best weight of the controller model. And then differently, separately, you have the deep reinforcement learning branch, which will use the Q-learning algorithm to figure out the best actions to play in order to maximize the rewards. But this is absolutely not what we do here. Here we do policy gradient, meaning we're optimizing the weight or the parameters of a model. Here, the controller model. So we won't do any Q-learning, or we won't work with any Q values here for the full world model. What we're doing here to optimize the weight of the controller is by leveraging policy gradient, and of course the state-of-the-art model in the policy gradient branch of AI, which is evolution strategies, and more specifically the covariance matrix adaptation evolution strategy. So I hope you're now convinced that you should always have it opened with you all along the course. Remember, worldmodels.github.io and blog.autoro.net, and then you can just type visual evolution strategies with Autoro on Google. You cannot miss it, but we will also give it to you in the course so that we make sure you indeed don't miss it. All right, and just to finish the tutorial, I would like to point out the fact that indeed the authors explain that they optimize the parameters of the controller C with the covariance matrix adaptation evolution strategy, CMAES, which we will implement in the course. So I can't wait to start all these steps. This was the last tutorial of this introductory section. Now it's time to begin our journey with the first step, covering artificial neural networks. If you already know artificial neural networks, then you can move on to the next step, convolutional neural networks, and if you already know them, you can move on to the step after that, variational autoencoders. You have to understand that this course was made for everyone, so that everyone can tackle the full world model, and that's why we provided everything from scratch with a step-by-step structure. So please make sure to navigate your own way depending on what you already know. And on that note, I will also give you the cheat sheet with the full structure so that you can clearly have it in your mind. And until then, enjoy artificial intelligence.